Welcome to SuperMind. My name's Jen Lucas. I'm your host for today, and we have the wonderful Ami Chen Mills-Naim as our guest speaker today, speaking about freedom and the formless. And just by way of introduction, I wanted to mention that I've known Ami for almost 2 years, and we first came across each other because I ended up doing an internship with the Center for Sustainable Change, which she was very intimately involved with for years and years. And I had the great pleasure of spending a lot of time with her. And I'll say that the thing that really strikes me about Ami that I love so much is that she's so obviously willing and very comfortable being so human with everything that comes along with it, and yet is really easeful at pointing us toward the spiritual in a way that has so much depth of feeling. And so when she suggested this topic, I just thought it couldn't be more perfect for us today. And so before I sort of hand it over to you, Ami, I wanted to mention to everybody who's on the call just that at any point while Amy's talking, even if it's not time that we're actually taking questions or comments, if something comes to your mind that you think, oh, when it does come time, I want to share this. If you have an insight, a question, a comment, anything, feel free to use the feature where you raise your hand. So that's under the participants tab. Or if you can't figure that out, just send me a private chat message with the chat box. Just send it to me, Jen Lucas, and that'll work fine. So Ami, what I'd like for you to do is just start off any way you like with this topic, with any sort of introduction about yourself that you want, or you can skip right over that. And then we like to have, 30 or 40 minutes where we're really talking about the topic, but however that goes is fine. So you can feel free to fill up all that time on your own, or we can have a conversation, you and me, or if there are lots of questions, we'll start them early.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just really want to start by thanking you and Brett and the others who I don't see on the screen right now, who are a part of SuperMind, who are providing this either free or low-cost service to people around the world who have taken up a lot of their time, on a volunteer basis to, I know there's some pay. I imagine people are not investing in the stock market with all of the revenues that are coming in from SuperMind. And honestly, if we didn't have people like you, at least for those of us in the States, those of us that are called the old hands, and I'm not even the oldest hand yet. I'm getting there. If it were on us, we'd be sitting around on our duffs, on the couch drinking tea, and this wouldn't be getting out very far as it hadn't for so many years. I say that facetiously, perhaps it would, but I have been so impressed by just the energy and the technical savvy and the amount of computer time and effort and energy people like Brett and yourself and others related to SuperMind are willing to put in. And I think it's done so much to move things around the principles. So I just really appreciate that. I wanted to share that first. In terms of my background, many of you already know Roger Mills was my father. I've actually been writing about him and reading about him in Modelo and looking at some of his memoir writing that he did, even for Sydney Banks, who had a book of people's stories in production when he passed away. So I'm very much a part of the principles from an early age. And then in 2004, I co-founded the Center for Sustainable Change. But now, to make a long story short, I have really backed away to allow Dave Nichols to really direct and lead in the way that he would like to. I found myself having too many opinions. You got to check when you're having too many opinions, too much thinking. What is going on? And I just realized that we do things differently, and without a a judgment on that. I just thought, oh, it's time. It's just time for me. It just felt like a very natural, it's time for me to really do my own thing. So now really my business and my practice is at Ami Chen Coaching and Education, which is, everything I'm doing is pretty much on that website or the Facebook page. And the website is amichen.com. And I would just like to share some thoughts about freedom and the formless. And I was going to include the word form, but then it just sounded awkward, freedom, form, and the formless seemed like too long. So I cut it back. But I was interested in including form because, as we know, the three principles of mind, consciousness, and thought create form. And they create the form of our specific thoughts. They create the form of our emotions and feelings. They create the form of everything you see around us. And divine thought creates all form. And in fact, we see it as we're creating, and yet divine thought is really the creator, whether it be what we call nature, the creation of nature, or whether it be our own personal thought system, which is a product of divine thought. So this is the nature of things, to be in this this hot spot between formlessness, before thought takes shape, and form. And that's the beauty of life. That's this. That's us being with and seeing and talking with each other and looking out and seeing form. Sid talks about becoming contaminated. When you're born, you look and you see form and you instantly become contaminated. Well, that sounds a bit negative. oh shoot, we just can't get a leg up, the instant we're born, we're contaminated by this world of form. But I don't think he meant it that way. What he meant was that we start to forget what you might call home, which is formlessness. And we become identified and attached to this world of form. We become identified with the body. We become identified with the personality. We become identified as human beings walking around separate from each other in this world of form. Me and you, this and that. What people call dualism. But that's all part of the game. That's natural. That's part of what's meant to be. And I'll tell you a story about Sid. It's just occurring to me now as I'm speaking that this relates, because when I was about to have my first daughter, Aaliyah, I guess I had in my mind, it wasn't what Sid said about being born and becoming contaminated. It was just the whole sort of looking at, the misery that we do see in this world and that we've experienced. And I really had this sense of, in my mind, there's this beautiful, perfect, formless space that you could call God. And then there's birth into this world of suffering and, mental distress, physical distress, chaos of all sorts. You just look at any newspaper and there it is, just all the chaos. So I started to feel very ambivalent about having my child. I started to feel like, well, why am I taking this beautiful, formless energy and creating, this sort of point of consciousness that then will identify as a separate form and possibly suffer. I hope you can follow this. I wrote this up in a parenting book from a long time ago that I have never put out. And some of the moms said, I had no idea what you were talking about when you wrote about that. So it may be my unique perspective, but hopefully you can follow my line of thought.
Yeah.
So I happened to be at my father's house, and Sid called. And he called to talk to my dad about something. I don't know if I was even involved with the principals. I think I was at that time, but at the time I didn't see Sid as someone who would call to talk with me necessarily, So I was thinking, I would find my dad and hand Sid off to him. And Sid said, well, how are you, pet? He'd always say, pet. Well, how are you, pet? And it just came out of me. I said, well, let me tell you, I'm pregnant and I'm having concerns because I'm afraid. And it came out of me because it was for me a real concern at that moment. And who better to share that with than this awakened being who had been so helpful to so many. And so I shared with him this thought that, I'm taking this beautiful creature from paradise, or there's no creature, this non-creature, into beingness and suffering. And what he said to me was so short and simple, but it really was what I needed to hear. He said, oh, pet, you can't stop change. And what I heard was, this is the nature of life. Form. So the reason I bring this up is because I feel I've encountered what I would consider to be misunderstandings about form in the world of the principles and in spiritual worlds. What I have encountered are people who almost are trying to escape from form, escape from emotions, for example, or certain types of form. And then there's also the idea that whatever form we find ourselves in, we are stuck with it, and all we need to do is change our thinking, and then it will be okay. I was just talking to a colleague and friend who was saying that he had moved to this town, and it was in a different country from where he had come from, quite far away. And he ended up in this town, and it seemed like with all that effort to get to this new town in a new country that one should stay. And yet he had this overwhelming feeling of aversion to this town. Like he just didn't like it, didn't want to be there, didn't have a good feeling from it, wasn't comfortable, didn't feel home. And so I knew what was coming. He said, so I thought I'll just change my thinking. Because it's from the inside out. And we're hearing that a lot. It's a one-way paradigm, right? But there's more than just thought and consciousness in that paradigm. There's also mind. And that means that there's, as Sid has said, a guidance, a flow of intelligence, like the flow of a river that is moving us along in this world of form. And when we feel that, and it's calling for a change in form, then we change the form. We don't have to change the form, but if, in my mind, if no one's forcing you, if no one's blocking you from leaving this town, and you're not trying to drive out and they're, they got the police stopping you and saying, go back, you must live here, then you go. Do you see? And I've heard that a few times, and sometimes there's an example given that's just meant to be an example of, someone said something about working in a fast food company. Like if I could be happy working in a fast food, fast food restaurant. And I'm thinking I heard that and I thought to myself, I can't be happy working in a fast food restaurant. But the point was, you can be happy, really, where is the source of well-being? The source of well-being is within, no matter where you are. That's a fact. So potentially we could all be happy working in a fast food restaurant. But that doesn't mean we have to work in a fast food restaurant. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. So much sense. Yes, I'm just chuckling along at how, yeah.
So I think I don't know if concern is the right word, but what I would like to remind people about is that third principle of mind. That there's a mystery, that there's a wisdom, that there's a flow of thinking that will change form, will change the form of our lives. And we don't have to make that happen, but we certainly can follow when wisdom is calling us and speaking to us. Just the way, I was saying with my work at the center, I could have fought that and said, okay, in fact, I did for a time. I did say, well, I'm not thinking properly here. I need to change my thinking. I'm getting frustrated. So it must be me. And I thought I should just have more patience. And it was actually someone telling me, I think you need to stop being patient. And I thought, oh, could I do that? Would that be 3 principles? And it just felt completely like, oh my goodness, it was almost like I had taken all of my choices off the table in light of these 3 principles are always coming from the inside out, and so therefore everything should be all right no matter what's happening. I had taken the option of making a choice and moving and changing form off the table. And so when it came back on the table, I realized, oh my goodness, like we get to choose. And I saw that there was some other sorts of thinking that were, besides this, it's all my thinking. There were other sorts of thinking about, the center had been my life. The center had been my family and my colleagues, and my group work was with the center, and I had some amount of cachet, to say I want this to happen or let's have that happen, and people would listen. So there, I had a chance to also see, oh, that's interesting, like you're afraid to lose all of that. But then really that you can't stop change. So I think that's what I wanted to share when I was reflecting on the topic today. And, there was another piece to that topic, which was, and whatever the form is, to be remembering that innate well-being also is in the midst of any form. So there's the game of looking at form and reacting to form and creating form and changing form and following our particular destiny or journey. And there's also, the vertical drop in the space of whatever form we find ourselves in, which is back to this sense of perfection, I think I said silence or stillness, which is always at the core of all form. So it's a dance. isn't it? Because as we recognize this tremendous love and well-being that exists in the heart of form, we also see that there's engagement with form, and that form changes and comes and goes, and we may make apparent choices. And it's beautiful to see how form, begins to unfold. And it actually begins to unfold according to this trust or guidance of mind. Like this cottage was a dream. Never, when we bought the front house, there was no cottage. There's just messy yard full of weeds. And it was following this sort of sense of what to do and what feels good that this was created. And I remember when it was first, we finally were like painting the trim. It was the very end of creating this cottage. I just was so struck with this sort of a dream has come true feeling. So there's that too. And so that's the dance, right? And yet if the cottage burned to the ground, well-being is still here. So it's very paradoxical what we're talking about, isn't it? It's paradoxical. It's on the one hand, the formlessness that we are as spiritual adventurers investigating for ourselves and discovering the spiritual formlessness, the source of form. And then on the other hand, playing in the fields of form. So it's a bit paradoxical, those two worlds. In fact, Sid once said, the reason that truth is always a paradox is because we're talking about two worlds. The form and the formless. So I think that's all that I had on my mind to share. And I would love to hear what other people's experiences have been, or if there are any reflections from the group. And I think if I have any intention for this call, this webinar, it would be for us to come to the table with honesty.
Well, I'm going to start off. As soon as I said that, Chris raised his hand. So Chris, I'll come to you next. But, when you were talking about that, you're telling that story about the center and saying, oh, you had this idea you should change your thinking and outside in, or maybe it's the story about the guy who moved, both of them really, right? I so went through such a long period of time after learning the principles where I didn't even realize I was doing that, but I really thought there was a way to get it right, and then I saw how we can, like the whole outside in, inside out, it's not even a thing other than it's just, is my sound not good?
I'm hearing it kind of crackling.
Okay, so I just got 3 people that just sent me a message. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to interrupt my story and I can come back to it, and I'm going to unmute Chris and let him talk to you and see if I'll fix my sound. Okay.
Okay.
So Chris, go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. It's so beautiful seeing you. Well, I just wanted to share it. It's been a very special day for me today. I woke up with a dream, and somehow it was like I was being shown something from the unknown. Now, of course, I get into this interpretation or putting words onto it. So I'm quite sure that was not what I dreamt. But anyway, I was shown some pictures in a book, some pictures of me. But I was also very aware that it wasn't me, that something else is popping in. And I read some non-dual writings last night about the now. It was very interesting because it was one of the things that was being said there by was that about the concept of time. So in a way, every time we talk about the past or the future, it's always now. And so now is always where we are. There's nowhere else to go. Then I remembered that there were some people in a tribe in Chile who have it reversed, so that the future is in a way in the past, and that in this society, I read somewhere that because the way they see the world, everyone's very happy. Because talking about the future is nonsense. It's because it's not, So in a way, it's like the concepts, the form, the way we're understanding the world, as I'm understanding the world, is made up. And so I was just reflecting on that. I wrote a little bit about it, and I had this very almost like a sad feeling in the morning. But then I realized that it wasn't really a sad feeling, because I'm not sad. I've had a lot of workload recently. A lot of things have happened, but then I realized, yes, I'm just feeling empty. I'm just empty, as if there is no future, no past, but just empty, being the feeling of emptiness. And I just, so I realized that I just had to relax, be with that feeling, and I felt privileged in a way that I had this experience that I'm experiencing nothing in a way. And at the same time, this impulse to write, to try to make sense of it. And at a point, I just stopped making sense of it. And it felt so good because what I usually do if I'm in the world of form, I'll very often I'll feel tired, and I'll have this dialogue going on saying that, oh, why are you tired? Or you shouldn't be tired, or what made me tired, or
That's tiring.
I'm trying to adjust through my intellect to what's in my world, and instead of just being whatever it is and not giving it a name or a label. Wow, and I just felt like a lot of load just shifted, and a lot of this that's driven me a lot in my life, this feeling that I have to achieve, I have to be, I have to do, and I couldn't give a damn. It's really because now is what I have right now, what we have.
Yes.
And that's just it. And it's so simple. Yeah. So that was what, that's the frequency I'm talking about.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. That's the true identity. Isn't it? Without a thought. It's intelligence is there, consciousness, perception, and there's no need to think.
No.
I mean, thought is there in that all-defining Sydney Banks definition. Perception, because perception is there. Experience is there. But here you are without a thought of Chris.
Yeah.
And here you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Always there.
And not having to have an idea about, is that good, is that bad, or, it's really, I like the Taoist philosophy because they have this description of form as a building, but the real essence of a building is the empty space that's in this building. It's what you potentially can do or be in this emptiness. So it's not the building, it's not the house as you mentioned. It's the space, and the space isn't. It's just empty. It's just empty. But there's a potential for anything in this space, and we keep knocking our heads into the walls, So just recognizing that, wow, this is the full potential. It's always there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even the form is space, they say.
Mm-hmm.
The forms of the desks and the walls is space.
Yeah. Someone told me once that if you look at a glass window, it's actually moving. If you look at very, very old houses, 200 or 300 years old, you'll see the glass is thicker in the bottom of the window than in the top, because the atoms, everything gets moved by the change of gravity, even if even what we perceive as fixed. Fixed. It's just everything is gradually moving and changing. And it's just in our heads that we have this idea that, it's like that. That's reality. That's, everything is a fixed thing, but it isn't. I like that image. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I actually popped onto Facebook this morning and I read your dream story, and I liked it.
Thank you.
But you're reminding me too of, it's not related so much to what you're speaking to, but what I was speaking to earlier, that, have you ever heard this metaphor? I used to use it in my teaching, which was that thought is like a stream, like a stream or like a river, and it's flowing. And sometimes we get caught up in these whirlpools that seem to stay in one place, repeating thoughts, or sometimes we get caught up in a tangle of weeds and roots that are in just underneath the surface of the river, and we get stuck there for a while. And that's like these thoughts and emotions that we get stuck in, or life situations in this form, and yet we're always moving along, in this river. And I think that's to trust that whether we get tangled up or not tangled up, we're just sort of moving along. Now, what you're speaking to, and I'm talking about sort of form and wisdom and how our lives unfold and how we come to discover what we are. What you're speaking to is this discovery of what you are, this emptiness. It's beautiful. That's what we share. Yeah. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you, Chris. Is my mic sounding okay?
It's not, but I can hear you. I can hear the form of your words.
Okay, but it's okay though. So I will call on people, and Brett is up next. He's got a comment or a story or something. There you go, Brett.
Thank you. You spoke earlier about change, and that we live in two worlds. The formless and the form. And that's, I had an experience yesterday that happened maybe an hour before we did the webinar with Bill Pettit. And there was this rush of people who wanted to sign up at the last minute. And then the email started to come. It was like, what do I do? How do I get into the webinar? That kind of thing. And I was like, blimey, I've got to do all this work. Keep replying to them, right? And as I was doing them, I did have thoughts of, I thought I prepared it well, and it turned out I didn't do it so well. I thought I created enough of a structure that when people have signed up, they would get an email that they would know what to do. And it turned out it wasn't quite like that. So even with all
it never is.
Even with all this preparation, right, and even as I was replying to them, right, I was still getting new thoughts, and I have no idea where they were coming from. I had no idea whether I was in the world of form. I had no idea if I was in the world of formless. I was just seeing why people were saying why they couldn't get onto the webinar or what they need to do. So what was happening? I had no thoughts about what I was doing wrong. I had no thoughts about being present. I had no thoughts about what I could do to make it better next time. I was just doing what felt like I had to do in this moment. Which might be the now, but I wasn't thinking enough. So as a result, I can now see much, much clearer what I could have done differently. And then suddenly I started thinking about it. Why didn't I have those thoughts before? There's a crazy kind of simplicity behind it all. Right? I mean, now I see it. That kind of thing. But why didn't I not see that before? All this experience in preparation, reading other books and that kind of thing, and none of it really. Maybe I wasn't in a state of mind where I could really learn from it. Somehow there was something about the experience that pulled me through, or whatever you want to call it. There was something in the experience. So my observation was, as you were speaking earlier, there are two worlds, the formless and the form. When I'm having the experience, when I'm in the experience, and I realize I'm truly in the experience, does either matter?
What was the last thing you said? When I realize that I'm truly in the experience, what?
When I'm truly in the experience, does either world matter?
Mm. I think in the end it just doesn't. I mean, really, it's like that's when we can see that the form will change and the form will be frustrating or negative, and then it will be insightful and wonderful and present. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the form is. So it does and it doesn't. On the one hand, we get to choose, as we were talking about earlier, we get to choose where to live. I mean, if we have the privilege and benefit of this, you know, which most of us do on this call, of having those choices, and some don't. Some are in refugee camps, some are barely hanging on. So we get to choose, and that's a beautiful thing, and it doesn't matter.
We get to choose, and it doesn't matter. When I'm in the experience, there is no notion of choice. It doesn't mean it wasn't there. It doesn't mean that there was a list of choices to make. What I'm hearing at the moment is that there seem to be a number of levels where choices arise. One is that we can't see it for ourselves in the form. And when we're in the experience, it doesn't matter about choice, because the experience is, I guess, a guiding factor. So that's helping me to see there's another level of intelligence that's already there that I hadn't seen for myself before. So with that, but I can hear myself thinking already. I want to be in that place more often, more of the time.
Yes, right. Well, that's thinking. I mean, I can hear this, you know, sort of thinking. I see that you're seeing something, and it's a nice thing to see. But we think, don't we? We think about all of this, and you know, that's and it's fine. It's fine to think. I mean, we all do. We all will analyze and think, and yet silence is underneath all of that.
I've just had another insight as you said that. Silence is underneath all of that. And I realized that because I was already in a state of silence that I didn't know I was in, I was hearing something from the Formless. So it's not silent in the traditional way as what I think silent meant.
Mm.
Okay.
What did you think silence meant before?
A quiet mind. A state of emptiness. But at the moment I'm saying that silent is the state of empty mind that we're ready for. Okay.
Well, don't think too much.
I've been doing it for 39 years. I can't stop the habit.
I can see the wheels turning.
Is that obvious?
But I mean, I'm hearing that you're seeing something, and I don't know exactly what it is, but if it means something to you, that's what's important, you know. I mean, all I could pick up was that perhaps it's new for you to be in silence and also activity, you know, mental activity of handling all these things in a very present way. So the silence encompasses the activity of the mind as well. And it's, and it can be very smooth and wonderful and be active at the same time. What I also heard was this, and I'm just pointing this out, not necessarily just for you, Brett, but the way we, you mentioned, well, why didn't I see that before? Why didn't I know that before? Why didn't I learn that before? And that is thought, related to some image we have of ourselves as someone who should get it right, or have it right, or be better. And this was to discover that silence has always been there. Let's call it innate health if silence is no longer resonating for us. This energy has always been there. And this is worthiness. So I had this tremendous insight when a few years ago. I remember somehow I felt I was conversing with Jamie Smart for some reason in email. It could be my memory's not correct, but I just realized that, and I think I shared this with him, that worthiness it's a done deal. And that's what when we're striving, when we're seeking, when we're looking for levels of understanding or a new level, there can be this sense of, then I will be worthy. Then I will be okay. And to realize that the worthiness has always been here. It just knocked me off my feet, because I think I always felt, even after learning the 3 principles and being a teacher for several years, that there was still something to prove. This constant dialogue we have with ourselves about what still could be improved. And that, to me, again, it speaks to the form and the formless, because we may be on an apparent journey of improvement. My relationship has gotten better with my husband, my relationship with my children, my home life, my career, whatever, all in the world of form has improved. But that doesn't mean anything about my worthiness, because that was already there. And that's huge. I'll share a personal story with this new company, Ami Chen Coaching. I mean, it's a website. I mean, I have some help and I have my space here, but it's just a website. But as you know, there's no end to the amount of marketing and effort you can put into something like this when it's your own. There's no end. And so I found myself, just before this trip to Michigan, becoming worn out with, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And then there's the children, there's all the other stuff in life that Jen knows about and mothers know about and, caretakers know about. And then I just paid attention. I just started to pay attention to that feeling of there's too much to do. And it was about getting another book written, and it was about all the ideas I had for collegial affiliations and programs and things to offer. And they're all wonderful ideas. And I was truly thinking that they all needed to be done, by the end of March. In order to, again, vigilance, right? Or what? Or I am what? Or what? And I just paying attention and I didn't have an answer. I didn't have a huge insight. I didn't have a parting of the clouds. I just noticed and noticed. And then one day when I got back here, I just was noticing, my wisdom just came through and was like, nothing needs to be done. And if it's fun, you do it, and it can be gentle, and it can be, and my children, I had this insight in Michigan. Allie is 11. So in about a year, she probably won't want me to read Harry Potter to her at night. I don't know. And yet many nights I'm too tired to read Harry Potter. And I had this insight that, now's the time to be reading Harry Potter. So then we come back, as Chris said, into the now, into this, what is happening now? What is life giving us now? It's all around, it's this incredible bounty of children and housing and shelter and food and what we've achieved already, which we don't often just reflect on. What's been done, what is. Not that that's even important, but, Sid used to say, it's okay to be proud. So I just thought I'd share that. Not necessarily in relation to what you were speaking of, but.
It resonated. There was one thing that you said, it's a done deal.
Mm.
And again, I heard that on a different level. We know Bill Cumming, and one of the things that he liked to say is that our value and worth in the world are a given.
Mm.
In other words, it's a done deal. So I heard that on another level now. So then now there's another strength in which the weight to come up my shoulders. There's something I don't have to do to be worthy, if you like. But again, I didn't see that before. And until I saw it for myself. It's like, now I see it. And then suddenly I'm more free again.
Mm.
Amazing.
Mm.
And I thought there wasn't anything else to eat. Okay. Amy, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Brett. That gave me such a chuckle when he said, I thought there wasn't anything else. It's just like, aren't we so cute when we think that? Everybody, like, oh, really? You thought that you knew everything? That, like, that it was, oh.
I knew everything for a minute. And then it was gone. And then I realized I knew nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Back to nothing.
It's always more. Lovely. It was so lovely. Well, I've got a couple other people who are in line. So, Emer, I am unmuting you. You can go ahead, Emer.
Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Hi. I just had a quick question about, you were talking about change and how it's inevitable. I suppose just before I came across the three principles, I was quite resistant to change and overanalyzing things, as some people tend to, and being caught up with worry. But I suppose more and more I'm just trying to, go with the flow and go with my gut feeling. But I was just wondering, from your perspective, can you ever be misguided by going by your gut feeling? I was just wondering, does it always feel right? It should feel right, like the right thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think you can be, but I have experienced a different kind of feeling, which I would call, and I'm not sure if I have the textbook definition correct, a kind of mania.
Yeah.
And mania can feel very positive. It can feel very, you're full of energy, you've got all these ideas, and you're just sort of on top of the world, really. I know there are different flavors of mania, but this is just I've experienced this feeling a couple of times in my life, and I got the sense, oh, that's what they mean when they're talking about mania in terms of bipolar, whatever their terminology they're using. And it's a sense of there's just ego in it.
Yeah.
It's like there's an inflation of the ego. If I can do anything, people feel it sometimes on drugs. And so it's an illusion because it's based on ego.
Yeah.
Which is itself an illusion. The ego is an illusion. And so that's what I mean by there's nothing to be achieved in terms of worthiness, because there's no one who achieves that. The sense of self is a construct.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for a sense of self to be worthy, then we're creating an illusion on top of an illusion. So I think, Chris brought in a really nice, what is there when we're not defining ourselves mentally, when we're not creating a sense of self. What is there is this energy of life. You could call it mind, or you could call it those three principles together: pure mind, pure consciousness, pure thought, before a personal thought has happened. And also when a personal thought has happened. It's also there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why there's no worthiness to be achieved, because that is worthiness. It's just pure, unadulterated worth. There's no, there's no thinking about worthiness, because there's just this isness.
Mm.
Now, I will say that I've had moments of feeling a strong sense of I should just drop all this complicated, ambitious career stuff and go do this simple thing and be happy. And I had that tremendous feeling to do that, and I totally ignored it. And I just say that because my life got complicated and frustrating. I made the wrong choice for myself, but it doesn't mean anything also. It doesn't mean anything in relation to this energy that we are. That's what I think I'm trying to say, is that the shape of our lives is influenced by wisdom and thought, of course. And we'll do the best we can with following that gut feeling and having the courage to follow it. But in a way, we're part of the river. It's going to flow. We're going to end up where we're meant to be. And so there's this vertical movement into what already is, that is beyond the form, that is already here. No matter whether we follow wisdom and it goes right, or we become manic and it goes wrong, or we don't follow wisdom and it goes wrong, it's all just a play in this world of form.
Yeah.
I sometimes see that people, like, when there's a lot of focus on having an insight, having wisdom, it's part and parcel of thinking about the future. If I have insight, if I have wisdom, then the future will change and look better, and my coaching practice will be successful, and my relationship will look, like this or like that, or my, children will be healthy and happy. And there's truth to that, but on the other hand, again, what is now? What is here now? Before anything has changed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Emer. Perfect. And Anne, I'm gonna unmute you. Go ahead.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Anne.
Oh, oh. What's here now is love.
Mm.
Years and years ago, I studied Vedanta, which is the study of non-duality. And years and years and years, I tried to find the space between the out-breath and the in-breath. I had a knowing that it was there. And I thought I had to study it and discipline myself to find that space. And about a month ago, I had an insight and discovered that I'd been studying something that was an illusion all along and didn't exist. And briefly, I fell into that space when the world fell away.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's all I need to know in this moment.
That's it.
And I love this call so much.
Mm.
Thank you. So filled with gratitude.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so inspired to share now this gratitude that I have for you, Amy, that totally ties back to the thing I started saying at the beginning. It kind of blows my mind when things like that happen. I'm not even sure if I can find the words, but I just remember back when we first met how I mentioned this at the very beginning of the call, but it really struck me how you were so willing to be human, and I was new at learning, and I didn't quite understand, right? And kind of goes back to what I said about after Brett spoke. Oh, it's so cute, aren't we so cute? And but I think we really need each other to show. We need people to show our messy humanness, so that we know it's really okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Divine in spite.
Yeah. And that whole, like, I really tied to that. I had this real shift with that whole, like, outside in, inside out, like which is what, and all that. And all of a sudden, the whole thing fell away. And I just really saw how, well, things are only outside in or inside out if we think they are one or the other. And that's it. It's just, life just is. and we're living it. And it's not outside in or inside out unless we think it into being. And I mean, I can get conceptual and say things like, well, no, I know the feeling is different when this or when that, but that's like it's too much and too complicated. It's just there's a deeper simplicity that's really underneath it all, that it's okay to just be human. And when
Yes.
I was just saying that about how grateful she was, that's what came up to me, is that you were my original teacher of that, Amy.
Yeah, I don't come off well for beginners. I've noticed that. Because people come and they'll say all these things, and they'll say, oh, I don't know, that just sounds like a bunch of bullshit.
Oh.
Part of it is that, there's been so much experience, since 17 years, 18 years ago. But I think what we're pointing to in this call is the sameness of what we are, both human and in the form, and divine and formless. And if I create a construct about being a teacher or about being an advanced student or then I'm just becoming attached to form. So it's wonderful to be, reminded by you. When I was in Michigan, I said to the audience that, I had, you're not used to doing these big lectures, and that's what I've been doing all of a sudden, like the school district training that I did was 350. And then this one, I didn't know. They said it's going to be a big theater, and I didn't know. So they said, do you want to have a PowerPoint? And I said, well, I don't usually do PowerPoints. And then I thought, well, I could do like a little PowerPoint. With all those people, maybe it'd be good to have like something that they can see. So I created a PowerPoint, and I followed it. It was very simple. Most of it was just beautiful pictures. But at one point, I just completely went off the PowerPoint, and I said, if there's one thing that you could realize that would just make everything so much easier, it's this idea that there's something wrong with you as a thought. If you could see that as a thought, and of course the whole you as a thought, this idea of you, then it doesn't matter what happens, or if we're human, if we get upset, and we do, and we get lost. I do. But I'll tell you the most beautiful thing. When I was this weekend, we had several birthday parties for the children, and so there was shopping and all of this for the presents. And you don't realize that, do you, as a mom or a dad, that you'll be doing like a tremendous amount of birthday parties. And so we went, and this one, I was feeling tired. I thought, I'll just drop off the kids, and I brought my books. I'll go to the coffee shop, and I'll just sit there and read and zone out and just let them do their thing. And I got to the roller rink. I mean, who has a roller rink anymore? So we actually have still a roller rink. We lost our drive-in, our movie theater, but we still have the roller rink, and it's not fixed up. It's, the floor is all patched with different colors of wood, and the sound system is terrible. The music you can't hear even the words. It's so bad. It's loud, but it's muffled. So it's both at the same time. And I got they had rented the whole space, and I didn't expect that. And they had Kahlua pork. They had done this whole luau Hawaiian thing. So they had the mom just like, Jen, don't listen, because you're going to feel your self-worth will decrease. She had made homemade cupcakes with homemade frosting, and her favors were homemade cookies, dolphins for Santa Cruz, with the blue icing and like the little eye, and packaged in cellophane, wrapped with a ribbon, including a keychain, and there were 30 of these to give out to the kids. She had done the Kahlua pork herself, and then she'd made a special sweet potato. So she had these basting dishes, with flames underneath. And I thought, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here with the Kahlua pork So I decided to stay. And it was so sweet because there were only like 30 of us, and there's this big roller rink. And, since I sort of had this insight about nothing needs to happen in any particular rush, I just have been able to be present with the children. And we had so much fun. I mean, the children were running around on their skates, if you can call it running around, skating around, falling down. They played YMCA and everyone's doing this. And I was just, little kids they don't even know what they're doing. We had the best time, just the best time. And it was just so much love.
Yeah.
And what you speak of in this moment, at this unexpected, birthday party, unexpected going to Michigan, unexpected, going to see my family. I haven't seen them in 7 years, maybe. Something like this. Yeah. Mm. Unexpected connections with them, and, just unexpected. So all this thinking we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Amy, we've got somebody else who has a question or comment. I'm not sure. Marita.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Amy. So nice to see you again.
You too. I've been seeing you sort of at ease in your chair, listening.
Yeah. I really love this webinar. So, just along the lines with things I've been thinking lately. I was in England the other weekend with Supankiewicz, A Space of Connection, and it was a really lovely weekend. But the last hour before going, that was a bombshell, really. But I didn't realise that at the moment, because I was really already in the car moving on to Cambridge and just listening. So, all right, but it's raining, it's dark, me and my husband going into the car. So I didn't really listen to what the people were saying. And then sitting in the car, and when we were on our way and everything was all right, it just dawned on me, wow, I just realised what I understood. But I didn't in the moment. But I really had such a deeper understanding of there is no I that am. I am not I. There is no I. Right. It's just a story we keep on telling ourselves all the time. So I was just laughing when you said about being pregnant and this energy being focused into a baby. And that was really what dawned on me, that we're really just something playing us. I think this guy, he said something about the formless is maritaing for a little time, and then it goes back into the formless. But when it's form, it's me, but it's not me, because there is no I. It's just the story I keep telling myself while playing in a playground of life.
Yes. And in a way, it allows you to play. It gives you this whole field of play.
And that's what mind consciousness is. And thought, it gives me the ability to play, to have my choices, to do whatever I fancy, what my gut instinct is. But it's just playing. It's just a story I keep telling myself over and over and over again. It's sort of a sitcom on TV.
Sitcom, tragedy, love story.
I get to make up all the story myself, and I don't have to go back and see the rerun of the old parts if I don't want to. I can go back if I want to and cry a bit if it's a sad part. I can be angry a bit if it's an angry part. But I can keep on doing new episodes all the time, and it just runs along. And I get to invent it myself. It's just playing.
Yes.
And nothing really matters. And
no.
so I just burst out laughing there in my car. My husband was like, "Oh my God, what are you all about?" It was so funny.
It's funny. It does and it doesn't. It matters and it doesn't. You know, it just, and it's always a mystery. It's a surprise. There are moments where something really matters to me. I care, and it feels like love. And then I see, oh, nothing matters. But then this play, this river, this flow of intelligence, I thought of a metaphor once. I don't know if it'll work here, but I'll share it with you, which is, it's like we're a group of people. We're actually one energy. But let's say we could be a group all together, just enjoying like an outing. And we've decided to go into a cave. We're going to spelunk. And everyone goes into the cave and they get a cord. And so when you're ready to come out, you pull on the cord and then you start going back to the mouth of the cave. You go back out into the light. Now the whole thing is for fun. We're going into the cave to spelunk. We've decided to do it. We think it'll be really cool to have this different experience and be in this dark cave. And we go in. And then we forget that, one, we're in a cave. Number two, that we have a cord. And that we could follow the cord back out, you see. And so it becomes scary and frightening. And we get into these small rooms and we can't figure out, we're all alone and all of this. And yet, before we went in, we were advised this could happen too. This could happen too. But we said, well, as long as we've got the cord, we'll always be connected. So I'll find it eventually. I might forget, but I'll remember. Eventually, I'll remember. That's this. This whole thing.
And it's just a game.
It's just a game.
Yeah. And it's the way things are and they aren't at the same time. And that's so funny. It's so funny when we sometimes really think that, oh, this is so important. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I have this choice and it's the most important choice in my life. And when you wake up to realize, well, yeah, I might do this, I might do that. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling myself a new story. And sometimes I believe the story a bit more than I usually do. And I get caught up in it. And then I find that then someone and I wake up from it and it doesn't really matter anymore. So, and then it just goes in and out of form and it's back to formless and it's form and it's formless and the ever-changing thing. And it's, yeah.
Well, Ramana, if you know Ramana, was really a very direct teacher from India who's influenced many hundreds and thousands of non-dual teachers and Vedanta teachers. I don't even know why we use names when we're talking about non-duality. It's like, are you a non-dualist?
That's another story I'm telling myself.
Oh, yeah, right, yes. So anyway, so he's well known for just like sitting. For many years he didn't teach, and my impression of reading stories about him is that he just basically sat. He didn't wear much. When Brooke first saw a picture of him, he said, "Now, what is he wearing? A diaper?" He'd be wearing this like white thing, like a wrap thing, around his, areas, private areas, and. He would be in his bed, and the whole thing just grew up around him, people coming, and finally he was on a bed. He'd sleep on the bed, and there'd be like 100 people sitting on the floor while he was sleeping. They just all wanted to hear him and be with him. So you have this impression that he's not moving. It just doesn't matter to him what's happening. And there's great truth in that. Now, also, there was a documentary about him, that Baruch, my husband, told me about, and said he actually used to get quite upset. He'd go into the kitchen and start yelling about the food and how they were preparing it, and it wasn't right, and this and that. So you see, so there you have Ramana. And then someone mentioned to him at the time, because he lived at the time of, oh my goodness, the name's escaping me. Oh, come on now. Gandhi. He lived at the time of Gandhi. And someone asked him about Gandhi, and he said, yeah, Gandhi's an awakened. He's awakened. And this is what he's doing. This is his river flowing in this world of form. So there's this. So I think it's a paradox, isn't it? The less you care, the more you care. You know, and the less you care how it all turns out, the more powerful you become. It's just because that's in the nature of this energy. And you don't care how powerful you've become.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. It's great to see you. Your smiling face.
Yeah, great to see you too.
Thanks, Marita. So I'm going to call on Brett because he had an insight when you guys were just talking. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, okay. You said that it was just a game. What I heard was that everything is only ever the beginning. No, I heard that many times before. I had several insights about that, but this particular insight seemed to surpass all the insights I've had about that together. Okay, so so everything's beginning again.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yes, always the beginning. You know, time isn't linear. It's like the rays of the sun. Always a moment, always a moment, always a beginning. Oh, I love that. That's very beautiful.
Thank you. It's a better playground to be in.
Yeah, we get to improve our playground.
Oh, thanks, Brett. Well, Chris had something else he wanted to add. Chris, did you want to share something?
Yes, thank you. Last night I saw a documentary about a woman who was a nanny in Chicago, and she all of her life she took pictures, Vivian Maya, and no one ever saw these pictures. So at one point recently, a guy found a big box of pictures, and they found 200,000 pictures, and it's some of the best photography ever done. And then they tried to track down who was this woman, you know, why did she take all these pictures? And they found different people that she was a nanny for. And just watching these pictures and watching this documentary just made me have this feeling of this, that everything is not personal. Just, you know, so I just wanted to share this, just try, you know, and just try watching the world as it is right now with these eyes. What, you know, it's like, for me, images, pictures, people, situations, like the light, as you said, it's always changing, and we just have to be open to it. Mm. And that's so amazing. So I just wanted to point to Vivian Maya and to this amazing gift of just being able to see and not wanting the recognition, not wanting the, you know, she could, some of the art critics say that she could have been one of our time's greatest photographers, but no one ever saw her pictures. So I just wanted to share that. So very strong story, I think. Thank you.
Well, when we're not thinking up time and we see what is, maybe in these photos, I hope maybe they can go on the SuperMind Facebook group link so we can get them afterwards. To see what is, it's somehow we think we want some kind of, Oscar award statuette, something that man created, thought created, recognition that really comes and goes. But to see what is here, maybe that's what these photos point to. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable. It's more than you could take in, And we've all had that, I think, either the full experience of that or glimmers of that, to be in awe at this world of form, just as it is. Yeah. Aw.
Okay.
I love you. So soulful all the time. So we must be coming to the end, I imagine.
Yeah. I was just thinking that what a lovely sentiment for our ending, actually, when you just were saying that. Yeah. But is there anything else that you would want people to leave with?
Just that I benefit from these conversations. I feel it's a benefit to me. It's to hear you and to be with you. I forget, and I hear you, and you reflect what I know, what I don't yet know. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Well, I am going to unmute everybody so that we can say thanks and goodbye to you, Amy. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Very
You.
Bye.
Thank you, Amy. I love you.
Oh, love you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Amy. Love all that you shared today. See you next time.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks again, Amy. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Very good.